January 1st, today, when this releases, I think we should talk about what are our goals for this podcast and for this trio. Like, what do we want the audience to get out of it? For the individuals that are sticking with us to the end of this podcast, what are they going to see come from us on this platform in 2026?
I think for myself personally, what I want to do is help people in two major departments. Leadership from the top down, starting with yourself. And then I want to try to bring as much helpful business advice that I can to really great business owners and coaches. I think that the more people that I can help, the more people get to lose weight, which we can fight this, crisis of freaking obesity, which is gross, that society's in right now. And so those are my two biggest things. That's why I'm here. I'm excited to do those.
I love it, man. I mean, just to build off of that, just for the name, Business, Brains, and Brawns, I think if we just take three of those things, we all embody those three things. It's not like each of us are one of those and it's explaining our characteristics. But I don't want this to be another lifting, bodybuilding coach podcast. What I want this to be is like, I want people to learn about business. I want people to learn about our life experiences. I want people to learn about what goes through our brain as coaches. And I want people to seek out our podcast and our platform when they want transparency and they want people to not hold anything back. I want this to be an avenue for them to look forward to what they're going to learn from us, even if they're not our clients or our athletes. And I think that's a huge goal of mine from this platform is how much free value can we give to individuals?
Yeah, I love that.
Not just so they trust us, but so that they can take that value and make the best decisions that they can for themselves, for their coaching team, for their business, etc. Because I would see a ton of fulfillment in that. I see more fulfillment in people implementing what I teach them over them hiring me. You know what I'm saying? If somebody wants to train with me and they want to be like, hey, Nick, I'll throw you $100 to train with you today. I'm like, no, you don't pay me shit. I just want what I want in return is when you're not training with me, if you implementing what I teach you. That's the same thing for this podcast, man. That's my goal for 2026 and us three.
Yeah. Y'all hit the nail on the head with that one. Being that transparent, real, raw, talking about our lessons and kind of teaching along the way. Mike, you're obviously going to have a lot of golden nuggets, as you always do for Nick and I, that a lot of people can take away from it as well, which in turn is going to help people grow their businesses, help people be better clients because they like us and know us and trust us and know the expectations that we have based off of our story. So I think it's just a lot of indirect benefit that is going to be given to whoever is watching this from us sharing the types of things that we talked about today.
Learn from you guys a lot about modern day bodybuilding is a lot different though. Nice. It's a completely different world. And so I'm excited to learn more about becoming a better just athlete in general, because I'm getting that old age now, right? My neck hurts sitting here, It's like, what can I do to fix that? So I'm excited to learn from you guys.
Awesome. I love it. We have a lot in store for 2026 from us three, from a business perspective, from a media content perspective, et cetera. So it'd mean a ton. If you guys could just drop a like, please subscribe. YouTube is a sucker for growing up. And me and Taylor, we had a lot of traction right off the bat when we first started our podcast. 5 episodes, 160 subscribers. So guys, we just, start off this 2026 with the bang. Put the bell notification on so you can get value from us. We'd appreciate that a ton. And gentlemen, this is episode 1 of Business, Brains, and Brawns, baby.
Yes, sir. Dude, I'm excited about this. Dude, let's start this puppy off, man. I think that as we kind of chatted yesterday, as we go into the new year of 2026, talked about what was 2025 for us as a whole and where we're essentially going with that. So I'll let you start, man. Give us a recap.
Dude, 2025 was probably one of my favorite years, one of my best years. A lot of growing in 2025. I had a lot of personal wins in 2024, which included a huge goal of accomplishing, turning pro. I had some pro cards in 2024, but 2025 is kind of when things solidified for me and more so what I wanted personally out of business, but also like personal life stuff. I think I needed 2024 to have the 2025 that I just had because I had growth in 2024, but I had a lot of stuff going on that sometimes other things took back burners, and 2025 is what made me realize that. Dude, I was traveling a ton for shows. I saw Taylor multiple times throughout the year, which is awesome, which is great. I would celebrate pro cards, celebrate placings, etc. I had a big year of also stepping away from my phone. I think that also came along with making some purchases that I had to be like, you know what? Nick, sometimes it's okay to make a purchase that you're going to enjoy. It's going to bring happiness. Your friends can enjoy it, etc. Which is like, I listed that in one of my like personal wins for the year. So I can go right into that. But overall, 2025 as a whole, man, I had a lot of growth business-wise, personal life-wise. And I'm proud of the year for sure. I had some lessons learned for sure, which we can get into. But I will say, just as before you guys share, as a recap, 2025 was one of those years where it sets you up for the next year in a very productive manner if you carry that momentum. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
What about you,
And
Taylor?
then-
What was like, give a 2025 recap?
Honestly, man, so much has happened this year. It's like I was just sitting in the barbershop a little while ago this morning and talking to somebody who was like, Christmas is next week. And I was like, I'm pretty sure this year just started like last week. But it's just because so much has happened this year, good and bad, honestly, that has just made it fly by. More good than bad, though. I can't sit here and pretend that it's been horrible because it hasn't been. More so a lot of lesson learning. But overall, man, like I've gotten 4 pro cars this year. I have, well, on the verge of 2 more businesses opening. So basically started 2 more businesses this year. So obviously grown friendships with people like Mike. Nick, you and I have grown quite a bit this year as friends. Everyone knows this now. So found out that I'm going to be a dad. Definitely the biggest and best win of all of them. And honestly, of my entire life. The year started off a little rocky though, which I'm sure we'll get into. So it's just good that I'm very fortunate that the second half of this year and specifically like the last 60 days have been just so much momentum going into 2026. I was telling someone the other day, a lot of people slow down, and even myself, I usually slow down a lot through the winter months. We know coaching usually slows down, and then it's like beginning of the year, it's back crazy, but I've picked up more speed through the second half of the fourth quarter this year to where it's like I know that 2026 just coming out the gates is just going to be, you know, a rocket ship. So I'm very, very, very happy with how this year has gone.
Fourth quarter, man, for me, for the first like 2 years of coaching, years maybe, was slow. But it feels good when that fourth quarter is coming and you start attracting those athletes that realize like, yo, they're looking back at their 2025 or their past year and they're looking at the first 3 quarters of it. This last quarter, this is when a lot of people start to make changes. You know, I think a lot more serious athletes, and that's what's picked up for me, which it is cool to see that as a coach. Like, you know what, I am attracted more to those serious people now. And I think a lot of them came to me, at least within the past quarter.
Yeah. What about you, Mike?
Man, it has been a year. I was just kind of you know, reflecting from a business perspective. I mean, we did as much money in the last 7 days as we did in January. For our business, we said that this year was the year of foundation. And next year, I'm already going to put my word on the year, is going to be hockey stick. And for those that don't know what that is, I can explain it another time, but I'm going to get more in the detail of it. But it says when you set the foundation, everything starts to take off. And it sounds like this was a big year for us, was in a foundation standpoint for everybody's business here. And, you know, Taylor said something to me last week because he stayed with me for like 9 days as we prepped for 2 shows, staying at the house. You know, it would have been nice to get 5 pro cards instead of 4, but we're going to see if 2026 we can make that happen. And man, he said that all the people around me are winning. And he's like, it's just a really great feeling. And man, if you're the only one winning in your group, then like I suggest you find a new group. You know, we want to be at the bottom of the totem pole. And this past year, I was able to actually be around some very successful people and see what 9-10 figure businesses look like and figure out, okay, we got a long ways to go. But man, my year was pretty amazing when we hosted 2 events, first ever 2 events. We got this new office space. We have doubled roster of clients on a personal level. Come back out of retirement, did my number 14 and 15th show just the past few weeks and looked the best I ever looked, thanks to Taylor. And looking forward to carrying that into next year as well. The team is grown, man. I think we employ now north of 30 people across the world. All of the people that we work with in the Philippines actually sent me a video last week, and they hosted a Christmas party and everybody had on an AR hat. That was just super cool. So this is like getting to change lives in a big way and serve. Had a really great year with my faith as well, which was really important to me, especially with my wife as well. She competed for the first time in bikini, which was cool. Yeah.
At Winter Classic, dude, killed that shit.
Yeah. I mean, and she kind of, she'd never won a trophy ever in her entire life. Never played a sport. So for her to get up there and win novice, win masters, place fourth in the open at your first show, first time ever competing, she crushed it. And I was super excited to be there and support her for that, because like this was all her idea. Like I wasn't supposed to compete. I was like, well, if your life's going to suck, mine might as well too. Let me get some content in the process. And it turned out it was crazy. So it was a whirlwind. We had a lot of fun, man. I would love to dive into some of the actual details of some of your wins. So let's just start there, Nick.
I want to touch on something that you just said that I embarrassingly missed. Faith is for sure something that is a win for me this year as well. And I think this is an important topic because we're all obviously believers. And if we can use this platform to show that and draw other people in and inspire other people to be the same, then I would love to be able to do that. But this year has been huge for me in regards to faith as well. I feel like the last couple of years have been just kind of keeping myself afloat with it, if that makes sense. Being a lukewarm Christian, as we would call it. Not that I didn't believe in God, but there's a difference between believing in God and actually being a Christian. And I feel like especially the second half of this year, just surrounding myself with people like you, people, just taking in the right content. Brandon Wara started the men's group. Just a few people that I've been around have really like sparked that. My partner in the clinic have really sparked that, hey, you're not really a Christian like you say you are, and unless you practice it. And that's something that I want to just throw out there as well, that the second half of this year has been very big for me in terms of actually praying every morning and every night. Not obviously not, I'm human, not as I should be every single morning, every single night, but more than I have in the past few years combined, probably. So just making it a point to do that. Grayson and I prayed together every night before we go to bed. We've been together for 2.5 years now, and we've never done that until about a month ago. So huge win on that side of things too. So that's something that I just wanted to throw out there as well, because I felt that's something that I very mistakenly missed over, and probably is the most important win of all of it.
I went to a trip that I went to Ibiza with some friends, some very successful individuals. And one of the guys said that my objective is to make Christianity attractive. And I thought about that, and I was like, sometimes it's like, oh, you can't have fun, or you can't do this, or you can't do that. And no, actually, I can do all the things that I want and still be a good person in the process. And so to be able to see somebody that has found success at a very wealthy level, it's also like find to be attractive. I'm like, hey, I can not drink and have a good time. I can go out and like, try my best not to cuss and have a good time and be this person, right? So that was really cool and getting to see that. And I'm happy to dive into that trip, because that trip was incredible. But to be able to go to like a VIP booth and it's like 3 guys, 3 wives, and you're the only ones in the entire place like not drinking, like God in the process, was really awesome.
Yes.
And I found that was a really neat thing to just showcasing that we can make it attractive, and it doesn't have to be this thing to where you're either on this side or this side. No, man. You can be happy and love God at the same time and enjoy the process and glorify him through all the things. That's been actually the biggest thing for my business. I'd love to dive in that in another podcast, but yeah, love to hear that was a big win. And you said something I want to just take like real quick on. We are human. We are going to forget. We are going to make mistakes. We are sinners. Expect people to be humans who are sinners. So don't beat yourself in the process where we forget this, because you're always going to forget something. And so it's just about the remembrance of it. And I find that in any great relationship, whenever we find ourselves being distant, how can we shorten the gap from remembering to remembering? You get an argument with your spouse. It's the progress is shortening the phase of anger.
Definition of resiliency, right? It's like how fast what's the amount of time that you can bounce back from an adverse situation? That's resiliency. So it's the same concept.
Nick, let's dive in. Tell me, what's your biggest wins?
Biggest wins, man. I wrote a few down. I've got like personal wins. I've got some business wins. Honestly, I kind of want to start with personal wins first. I bought a house, and that was huge for me, which also kind of goes into my lessons learned of 2025 about, not really jumping on things too quickly, because I'm already looking at the market again right now. But it was a huge win in general. So we had a really unfortunate circumstance early 2025. Me and my girlfriend, where the house that we were going to buy, we were renting it, and the landlord, I told him early on, like probably 3 months into my lease, because I'd moved there over prep. But about March time this year, he was, hey, I don't want to sell anymore. I got other plans for the property. And I'm like, I just got back from the Arnold Classic, and I was riding a high, and it was a great time. And then I got 2 months to figure out where I'm living. So it was really stressful for both of us. There's things that I should have done differently, things that I did right. But all in all, I'm still proud of it. But, you know, not jumping into something that big. I should have just I honestly should have just asked more people of, hey, what's your take on this? This is my first time doing this. You know, should ask for more advice. I should have networked more. And that's just a lesson learned. You know, I also should have just given it up too, giving it up to God. Whatever happens, you know. Because I'm the type of person where sometimes I try to force things to happen too much because I'm a creator. I like to create. I like to control things in a good way. But sometimes, hey, the more you try to fix something or make something work out in the long run, it's just going to keep crumbling down, you know? And I had to learn that in 2025 in some pretty hard ways. That's a lesson learned, and it's a win of 2025. And also too, man, I've never owned something brand new until when I bought my truck last year. But this year, another win for me, I made 2 big purchases. I bought 2 new boats for personal use for my duck hunting boat. And then my speed boat, I was like, you know what? I need to be out on the water with my girlfriend, you know, and I need to be out on the water with my friends, and I want to have a good time. It doesn't matter if we're drinking we didn't even drink out on the boat this year. We didn't, you know, obviously everybody wants to drink out on the boat, but it was just the time, the camaraderie out there, you know. I just randomly bought it, and I pulled up to the house one day and I surprised her, and I'm like, hey, hop in, we're going to the lake, you know. I was really proud of that because growing up, Taylor knows my backstory, but Mike, you and I are new friends, developing our friendship. I didn't grow up with money. I grew up poor. My dad was a homicide detective. My mom's a high school teacher. They taught us amazing lessons. I'm very grateful of my upbringing. I grew up on a farm. My first iPhone wasn't until I was 18 years old. You know, we didn't have a single game system in our house ever. Okay. You know, my first flat screen TV was probably in 2017. So it was one of those things where I felt there was a lot of pride when I bought it with cash too. I was, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm going to go to the bank. I'm going to take this amount out. And I just handed the guy cash, you know? So that was a win for me, man.
That's a big win.
Yeah, dude, it was great. And at the same time, I bought the boat and I put some more work into it, kind of made it how I wanted it to, you know? I mounted 2 subwoofers in it. So I've got one right next to the steering wheel. It is loud. The boat's honestly, probably should have done some more research before I bought it, but it's got 2 supercharged motors in it. It's a 24-foot boat. So she fits 12, 13 people.
But we needed to come to Wisconsin, right?
Dude, hell yeah. Y'all would love it, bro. We'll rip around the lake all day. In clear water with 10 people in the boat, I can go across the water 60, 65 miles an hour. It's wild.
That's awesome.
But another one, man, something I'm really proud of is I completely detached myself from a lot of divisive people, a lot of divisive media, a lot of divisive drama-filled scenarios and people. You know, when I think of divisive media, I think of mainstream media because I'm not a political guy. I think politics are interesting to a point, but this year was the year that solidified it for me. Dude, Nick, why? Just ignore that. You know, don't listen to podcasts anymore where it talks about politics and divisive stuff. And it's because it's meant to do that. It's meant to divide.
Or sold negatively.
Exactly. It does, man. And I honestly, at the end of the day, I've got values of both sides of the aisle. You know what I'm saying? But it's what I'm about is being a good human, being a good son, sibling, friend, boyfriend, and making some money. You know what I'm saying? With politics and mainstream media takes away from that. It does. You don't realize it until you do, of how much it pulls from you. But also same thing with divisive friendships. You know, this year was a year where I really wasn't afraid to burn bridges if it was needed. And it benefited me greatly. And it was hard at first. Some of these people I've known for a long time. But man, I'll tell you what, bro, I hang out with, besides, you know, my friends in other states like you guys. I mean, dude, I've got 3 friends here in Milwaukee, you know, and that's my crew. You know, that's the people that I surround myself with, the good people, the people that will check me when I need to be checked. And I've never had that until this year. And that was a huge win for me, bro. Just personal life. It's what I needed. And I think it has an influence of the growth that I had personally, spiritually, but also business-wise as well. Because one of my best friends is one of my classic competitors, you know, and a good friend group's always going to check each other, you know, and he wouldn't really never check me as a coach. But he's also older than me. He's got more life experience. He's a retired Army Ranger. And so he's seen a lot of shit. And he's the grandpa of the group. You know what I'm saying?
So me of this group.
But just coaching him and just learning from afar, even though I'm his leader per se. In a lot of other areas And I haven't even really thanked him yet. So, I mean, he'll see this probably, but I have a lot of gratefulness to that friendship there. But business-wise, man, I had a one hell of a year. But 4 pro cards, just like Taylor. Well, 3 IFBB pro cards, 1 pro card for WNBF, but I'm counting it as 4 pro cards. But the thing is, like, I didn't know anything about WNBF until this year. Okay, I've never coached somebody for just a natural show. All right, ever. It's always been NPC, FBB, whatever. And so I had to learn a lot about it. And so I was learning about what WNBF actually was and how they have more funding. They're a little bit more prestigious. Just the differences of WNBF versus NPC. I came to realize, especially when I was viewing the live streams and at the show, these guys are some great competition for natural guys. But that was a huge win, especially for that athlete. He was fantastic. And then I had a record year of income, and we can talk about numbers and stuff later on in this podcast, or we can talk about it right now. But I think we can talk about it later because we'll eventually carry into business stuff. But a record year for income, and also 3 huge business investments, about to be 4. Shout out Check-ins Pro. That'll be the 4th, baby. But 3 huge business investments, man, that really helped me a ton. That I was like excited to purchase. I was really excited to get the value from them. And then lastly, man, the biggest win as a business this year is I put so much more into my people. Not like I was putting less into them in years prior, but my outlook going into 2025 was not how can I be the best coach possible? Obviously, we all want to do that. But how can I serve each individual the best that they need it? If I just serve everybody the same, there's no individuality there. You know, so I took a big step back. I'm like, okay, how can I serve Will Hardy, how he needs it, how I know him, how he responds best to feedback, to all these certain things. So I did that with every one of my clients and made sure that new clients coming on and new athletes, if they were amateur, pro already, whatever, or just lifestyle, I was okay, there's one thing to say that I care about you, but I want you to feel it. You know, I want you to feel like, yo, there's a culture on my team. And that was a huge win this year because I got a lot of feedback for the last half of the year of people telling me, just affirming me subconsciously, like, yo, Nick, when I hear your name, this is what I think about. When I joined your team, this is what it felt like. So that was a huge win for me, man. So yeah, dude, I'll start off with business and personal wins, and then we can go into some more lessons learned later. Taylor, what about you, sir?
Well, I mean, obviously I have to say the biggest is finding out that I'm going to be a dad. I don't think anything will ever trump that. From a personal side, you know, it's so weird, man, because it wasn't planned. It wasn't, to be completely transparent, like we're all bodybuilders here. We know what goes into that. I didn't know if I could have a kid right now after the last 5-6 years of bodybuilding. And so we weren't not trying, but again, didn't think that it was possible. I was actually planning on next year because I just turned 25. So I'm the type of person where I don't want to have a kid when I'm too old to be able to enjoy their, you know, early 20s. I wanted to go ahead and, you know, take that step at the beginning of next year if, you know, that was something that Grayson was up to and everything like that. But it was crazy because when I found out, it was a surprise, but it was like the greatest feeling. It's like that feeling, you know, when you're super anxious about something, and it wasn't that I was anxious about this. It was just, you know, anxious in general, or the best way I can explain it is like finding a purpose, right? It's like when it all makes sense, you just feel that warmth feeling, man, that's amazing. So that's how that felt to me. And that's the greatest feeling in the world. I can't like put it into words. Obviously I could try, but I'd probably get super emotional here on the podcast. But it's, you know, Nick, you and I have talked about our childhoods and stuff on the past or on the podcast before. Mike, you and I have talked about it. So it just like, it was a feeling of everything I've ever been through in life. Every time I've ever sat down at my computer, every time I've ever worked late at night or gotten up early in the morning when I was tired, or a show day when I slept 3 hours and was running off caffeine all day, or, you know, whatever it was, every bad decision I've ever made, everything was just, okay, this is what it was for. This is the reason, is so that I can take those lessons and all of the sacrifice and everything, and it's for a purpose. So that was definitely, you know, number one. And obviously the baby isn't going to be here until, actually we're a week farther along than we thought we were. We found out yesterday. So due date is July 5th. Would be super cool if baby's birthday was July 4th. So the baby won't be here till next year, obviously, but like it's just something that's consistently like, now I have a reason. Now I have another person to take care of. Now I have, and I can't announce that yet. Anyways, I get to raise it to be what I would have liked to be raised with, just to be completely honest. I don't think my uh, dad's going to watch this podcast, but if he does, like, just straight up, I want to be the dad that I didn't necessarily have. And so that's definitely number one. From a business perspective, man, so much has happened this year, Mike. I mean, well, both of you know, but so many ideas that really never made it to fruition. Some of them did, and then they were burned. Some ideas just got thrown to the side, but they're all just kind of hit at the same time with the right people in the right places, all of that type of stuff. So it was almost like and Mike's been telling me for forever now, just focus on one thing, just do one thing. And he'll probably continue to tell me that. And that is the plan going forward. Obviously, they just all happened like God, right? God was just like, hey, here's this thing, you need it. And I prayed on it, and it just all made too much sense to turn them down. So, we have, for those of you who don't know, coaching obviously is still what I do. Also starting True Coach, which is basically a education platform, basically make other coaches better coaches, because our industry is full of scum right now. And also or recovery and wellness clinic here in Wilmington. So we'll be doing all of the recovery and wellness type of stuff, which I'm super excited about. So that was it for business. Also hit my highest income ever by far, probably the last 3 years combined in 1 year. Like, I'm up 130% from last year, which is crazy. So yeah, everything on the business side of things went really well. Like, again, the relationship with God, and I really feel like there's not a coincidence there of the second half of the year, me getting closer to God, and also the second half of the year, all of these things falling into place. It's how do you justify it otherwise? Why did all of the same things at the forefront of happening at the beginning half of the year when that relationship wasn't as close, and then all of a sudden when I started to get closer with him and really try to be a real good Christian, did all of the friendships align, all of the people align that I wanted to do those other things with prior, and then therefore all of the things aligned at the same time. It's like, how else can you explain it?
That's crazy energy.
Yeah, it is. And honestly, man, that just clicked for me right now as we're sitting here talking. I'm explaining, and it's like, I got cold chills right now thinking about it. I can't explain it any other way.
That's nuts. I can feel that.
It's been an incredible year. Also, a lot of lessons learned. Like you said, we'll get into that. But that's what comes with growth, right? So, and Mike and I were talking. Nobody understands how a lot of times how young I am. Also, I just turned 25, so it's like, and Nick, you're young as well. I always say, though, my mom has always said I have a lot of life experience just because of because of my childhood, because of me, kind of being the man of the house at a young age. And my mom had to move across the country when I was 17, 18 years old. So I was, there to take care of the house and my sister and stuff like that. But it was so that she could sacrifice that in order for us to have a good living, for me to go to college, also. It just taught me a lot at a young age. And everyone's like, I thought you were like 30. And I'm like, well, technically my brain could be, but physically I'm not 30. So yeah, I just think that has a lot to do with like me aligning with the people that I've aligned with, starting to develop these friendships with Mike, for example, has taught me so much. And he doesn't even realize how much he's taught me especially in the last couple of weeks, but over the last couple of months. And just like being able to, something you mentioned, Nick, and I know we're going to go into next year's goals, but next year for me is going to be what this year was for you in terms of saying no and disconnecting from those people, because I really have my goggles on now as to who is truly a friend, who is truly trying to do something in life and at the level, and not, there's no harm against anyone who doesn't qualify as that, but it just is what it is like where I'm trying to go in life requires zero energy towards any negative people or lazy people or anything like that.
Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome. I'm proud of you that you want to that you're already thinking about that for 2026, because the heights that you want to go to with personal life, business life, you and Grace and etc. And one of the huge things to get there is practicing and trying and doing what you just
yeah. And it's I don't have the time and energy for it anymore, to be honest. Like, I'm very, very busy as it is, so every 10 minutes that I spend on something that isn't related to where I'm trying to go, it can't be there. Next year is going to be even crazier because I'm going to have all 3 businesses running. Like, 2 of them haven't started yet. So I'm going to have all 3 of them actually running next year. Mike and I have, quite a bit of travel planned with each other. I'll let him announce that if he wants to. But The baby's going to be here in July. I quite literally have zero time for any negativity, anything that isn't propelling me forward. That it just can't be there. It's just as simple as it is. It just cannot be there.
It needs to push you, or it needs to be pushed to the side.
Yes.
And something just takes time to like grow into and realize. I've got a decade on you boys, and so there's a lot you're gonna learn along the way. And I didn't learn a lot of these things until a much older age. And so I always look at you guys and people that are finding their path well before I did, and I go, man, you're going to be so far past me. I've got so much catching up to do. But it's also cool because from my side, I've got a really good friend and mentor who's 9 years to my senior. And I go, man, what am I going to look like in 10 years? Right. And so I think in your 20s, you're focused on, I've got to get it figured out now. In your 30s, you realize that you have time. And that's what I've come to realize is like, dude, 3 years is a very, very long time. Because I count back from when I was 21 to 24, 27, 30, 33, now 36. What happened over those 3 years? I was in a different marriage.
Bro,
3 years is so much time. And so when you look at it from a forward perspective versus retro, when you look forward, you realize if I just show up every day, I'm going to be leaps and bounds of where I was, right? Go back to the hockey stick. So this year for us, is going to be that hockey stick piece. And a hockey stick basically it's very flat. And then it has a very sharp curve where it just then scales very fast. A lot of people think business is this up and down as you go up. And it is on a micro level. But on the macro level, it doesn't stop and just continues. And then it's just compounding interest. And compounding interest shoots up whenever it starts to get to where you start to get bigger numbers. Whether that's people, connections, clients, you're just starting to multiply because your team becomes bigger, you become better, you're growing as an individual, as a CEO, as a business owner, whatever it may be. It could be a father, it could be a husband, etc. If you're putting in the work for that thing. So like I've grown a lot as a husband this past year. And as a CEO, where it's like it becomes noticeable. But at the same time, if we're not trying to show up in those areas, it's just not going to happen. Right. So I think for myself on some personal wins, obviously stepping back out, doing the shows was a really big thing for me. I'm growing a lot as a CEO and leader has been really big. I really struggle with relationships as a whole, with teammates, with people. It's just not a very strong suit of mine. And I know that. And so it's something I've actually been trying to work on and become better at. And then also realizing that people are going to be people and I'm not going to be perfect. And others aren't going to be perfect either. And it's just showing more grace, and I think in certain areas as well. So from a personal side, bought a house. I'm here in Plano, Texas. I've got the wife a new car, which is a nice little Panamera that she loves. So that was super cool to have her have that. And then we got into the new office, which was a lot of fun. We've had a great experience here. Loved it. The team is probably grown 3 times as big as it was this time last year. From a business perspective, we'll do around 2.5 million this year.
Nice.
Which is really awesome, which is last year, the business did $1 million on December 1st or 31st. So like this year, we've already essentially like doubled that plus. So that's exciting. I've got lofty goals for 2026, but it's the year of the hockey stick. So we're going to make it happen. Man, the team has been great. We had the new Check-ins Pro launch essentially happen as well. So we're excited for that. We've had some amazing conversations with some really big companies about collaborating between Trainerize and other large companies like that. So that's pretty cool. What else did we do? From a personal side, I did a lot of traveling. I hiked Mount Kilimanjaro, which was crazy. Hardest thing I've ever done. That's so much easier or so much harder than bodybuilding. Endurance is not my thing. I'm sure Nick can relate. I went to, I guess this time last year, we went to Switzerland, got married. I went to Cabo 2 or 3 times, just lots of travel. And that was really neat from a personal side. Never been to Europe. And in 12 months, I went 3 times. So got a lot of travel this year as well, work and personal. Going to actually be working around when I'm going to compete based off of that, because at the end of the day, I'm a business owner that wants to get a pro card. I'm not a bodybuilder trying to run a business. That's just where I'm at in my journey. So a little bit different there, finding priorities. I want to see my wife crush it also next year as well, because she got the bug. So excited to see her do that and support her throughout that journey. This also is like one of the first years, I guess the second year in a row of consistency from a paycheck for myself as a business owner. As you guys both know, as a business owner, every month we make different money. And now we have the company established where I receive this amount of money every single month. And then the company bank account essentially just grows. That's been really cool this December. So we know that means distribution. So I'm excited about that to come up too. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, for me, it's just overall, I think just growing as a person and then the company just following that. I have found that the more that I grow, everything else tends to follow because we are the tip of the spear as the business owner, as the CEO. And we actually finally established like some core values to our company as well, just something that I never thought I would actually do. I thought that was just, something people just did. And I didn't really understand it because I never really needed a reason to work hard. I just work hard, but it's also like why we work hard. So actually coach is our mission statement, which is commitment to excellence, ownership, authenticity, Christ-like faith, and honor.
Love it.
And so we're able to buy into those and spread that down the line to the rest of the people that we work with and really owning those and making everybody hold that line and that standard so that the service that and the product in which we provide for everybody is based off of those core values. It's not just based around the money. We find that money is just a byproduct of doing the things that you need to do to make it happen. So showing up in the right ways. So
I want to touch on that too, Mike, from an outsider's perspective. Something that I noticed while I was in AR the last couple of weeks, and I was going to say something about this earlier when we were talking about faith in general, but you have built an environment in the AR office specifically. Obviously, I don't know everyone, but like I noticed that every person there is a follower of God and isn't afraid to say it and actually means it and lives by it. So I want to tip my hat to that because like there were a lot of times that I heard the conversations come up from when others weren't around. So like Felicity would say something, or even Dan said something to me when we were alone. And then obviously you and Baker are very public about, your religion, which you should be. Is just like has a lot to do with obviously the success of the business, but it was cool to see.
Well, I'll be honest with you, man, it wasn't always like that. I was actually only got into true faith, I would say 18 months ago. I would say 19 months ago, I went to church with my wife to appease her. Even to where I went to a Bible study and he was like, how long have you been a believer? I said, I don't know that I am. And so for me, it is new. And the truth is that a tip of the spear, it becomes a lot more vocal around the people around you whenever you lead with that. And so my biggest advice for people is that if you want to surround yourself with people like that, then you need to be vocal about it. And we've come to realize that if that's a problem for you, that's fine. You don't have to be a client of ours. There are plenty of other people that are okay with that and actually want that. And so we've just come to find out that over us actually implementing it from the top down and being vocal, it makes it okay for everybody else to want to bring it out and talk about it and shine. It is part of our process. I won't hire somebody that is not a good culture fit. Just like if you're not in the fitness, I'm probably not going to hire you because we work with fitness coaches. If you have a problem with us praying, then you're probably not going to be a good fit for our company. And so culture first, skill second. Like you got to uphold the mission first. And the truth is that for our perspective, my mission has been there to help spread the word of God and Christ. And it's been tremendous for us. How this actually all came about was around money, funny enough, because for myself, I went to a service with my wife and our niece and nephew. And this was like 18 months ago. And it was called Dollars and Cents in St. Louis when we lived there. And I come back in the shower and I'm sitting there in the shower just thinking, and I was like, tithing. And I was like, well, you're a salesman, Mike. If you don't believe in it, you won't pay for it. I sat there for a second. And it was like, I had like 4 or 5 different conversations with people that didn't really make sense to me. Go back
prior to you being in the shower kind of thinking about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was like, I go back and now I want to say it was like they were speaking tongues. Like I didn't really understand what they were talking about in their business. And when I said, if you don't believe in it, you wouldn't pay for it. Instantly, it was like, God was like, let me show you. And every conversation became crystal clear. And I was like, whoa, I think God just spoke to me. And went outside and told my wife, and she was like, and so that essentially is my testimony. And from that day forward, I started tithing. And since we started doing that, the business has doubled and tripled. And so I was like,
to people watching maybe what tithing is, because it may be a word they've heard before, but not really fully understand.
So tithing is taking a 10% of your revenue that you essentially make and essentially giving it back to the church. I actually donate to the Bible study that got me into this, which is in St. Louis. So it's not a conventional church, but it's like And they had like 200 people under the age of 30 come to a Bible study in St. Louis at a coffee shop. And like they needed chairs and this. And I'm just, hell, let me support, like, because this is how I came to it. And this is a great place to the young community. And so I was like, let me help support this mission here versus this big building over here. Not that saying there's anything wrong, because I also now basically type to both, but that's essentially how it all started for me. So it was like, I had a mentor tell me that God could do more with 10% than you can do with 100. And he was right. And so for me, it's like, okay, so if I can put God in my company, which then serves more people by me tithing more, why would he not want the company to make more money so that I could help more people? At the same time, spread the message in word.
It's the principle of it. It's not about giving the money to the church. It's the principle of tithing.
It's the trusting that if we're here to serve, then he's going to be like, let me put you in front of as many people so that you can serve as many people as possible. Because if the serving comes back to glorify me, why would I not put you on a pedestal? Why would I not put you on that platform for you to help more people?
Is that where you feel like his presence the most, is when you're in front of people serving? Or is it when you're like alone doing something that you enjoy?
And that's a really good question. I've been put in a lot of situations this past year to have the hard conversations about God. And last year I dropped the ball and failed the test, where I felt like I should say something about it didn't. This year, every time I get that feeling, I call your gut feeling, I call the Holy Spirit. And so when you have that feeling, you should do that thing. And so whether it's speaking up to the person, whether it's defending somebody's honor, whether it's doing the right thing, like that's the Holy Spirit saying, take action here. And so for myself, it was about having the intimate one-on-one conversations with people who worry, because I used to worry so much. And I say now that if you worry, then are you actually a believer? The reason being is because you cannot actually believe that God's going to provide for you if you're worried about what time it arrives. So for myself, it's like, hey, if I just stop worrying and give it to God, everything will happen. So when I moved from St. Louis, dude, we were trying to figure out where our office is going to be, where I was going to live, and I didn't have a place before 30 days. And all of a sudden, it was like, hey, if you worry about this, it's going to be a struggle. But at the same time, I was like, hey, God will figure it out. God will provide. And all of a sudden, just boom, boom, everything lined up. It's the more that I try to control, the less I actually have control.
So how do you piece that with still moving with the amount of ambition and sense of urgency that you have?
Heater question.
Because I don't think that ambition is tied to an ego. I think it's a tied to, for myself, is achieving my greatness of whatever that is that God has in store for me. And I think when it comes into an ego and greed standpoint, it's going to be a hard, long road. But there's many times on a personal level, go back to Nick's question, whether it's in front of people or in a personal level, is like backstage at the show. Before I went on stage, I texted my wife and said, I'm kind of emotional right now. I love you so much. All glory to God. Let's go do this. So for me, I have these very overwhelming feelings oftentimes of like, man, life is great.
Yes, me too.
And life is good. And I have everything I could possibly want. And I'm always going to be taken care of. And I've always been taken care of when God wasn't by my side. And now I'm like, yo, what are we going to do with you by my side? So that's the approach I've essentially tried to take going forward, to where it's like, we're about to tag team this thing and we're going to like change the world and change people's lives and help people achieve their goals and have a heck of a time in the process. So it hasn't actually, if anything, I think it's given me more ambition and more drive and more purpose than being like, well, enough's enough. And it's like, well, define enough first and foremost. But I don't base my work off of money. I have goals. But at the same time, I view it as like, dude, well, if I can get to where I make X amount a month, then it's like also then turn around and I can help people do X amount a month, right? I can, whether it's with my friends or whether it's an organization or whether it's to a cause of some degree. And so I think all those things kind of tie together. And I think that's really a mental test for yourself. And I'll end it on this one, then we can get into some other pieces here. But every time you're put up with a battle, a mental test of like you're worrying or you're getting thrown this curveball or how are you going to handle it, that's a test. The test is how you show up emotionally, internally in that situation. And when you go, hey, I trust you, you're going to take care of me, you pass the test, you're ready for the next blessing. When you show up negatively and you start worrying and you start figuring like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to make ends meet? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? You are failing the test that you don't trust that God's got you. Get ready for the next test. It's going to be much harder. And that's where you get people in the dumps until they just finally break, end up in prison. All of a sudden, now they see God. Test over and over and over and over and over and over of the right thing that you need to do mentally or physically. And then it's like you finally at your wit's end, and all of a sudden now your entire life changes. And so I think that if you look at it from every time you worry, it's a test. Are you failing or are you passing? And for me, I try to take that in that moment and go, anytime I feel that type of anxiety, I go, wait. What are we doing here? Are we failing this test? We passing this test? Hey, let's keep it in abundance. Let's keep it in prosperity. Let's keep it in purpose.
Basically,
God's got me. Let's move forward.
Just gamifying life, essentially, is what it sounds like. Like, you play the game of, like, when it comes, you see it, and then you determine how to act. At least that's how I picture it in my head.
I got to get better at that, self-admittedly, for sure.
Yep, same. That's why I asked the question selfishly.
It took me I worried for 15 years. And when you worry, you're trying to pull on doors to get this door to open. You try to force it open. And it's like, if you just stop pulling on the knobs, the right one would open.
Yeah. You want to know what's funny? This conversation made me realize just now that happened yesterday. I cut somebody off yesterday completely that I coach. Well, I no longer coach them anymore. Kind of like good riddance. But like, it was one of those things where my reputation was on the line. It was a lot of worrying with this individual, etc. And yesterday, before I even got to the worry part, there was a few messages that were exchanged, not attacking my character, but just a lot of disrespect. And I had to be like, all right, before I even got to that worry part, I was like, looking at it now, me passing the test was getting this person out of my life, you know? That's crazy. That's just,
I think to your reaction too, though. Like, how did you react to it? You know, did you become heated? Do we become, or just, hey, you know what? Like, the money is irrelevant. It's my peace of mind. It's how am I going to bring this home to my spouse? How am I going to show up? Am I cussing in my breath?
Yep.
You know, that's the test.
Dude, like I know I can just feel good looking back at yesterday's conversation that I didn't say anything out of my character, didn't make him feel bad, etc. You know, and it's just one of those things where I think it's just a small worry, you know, of this individual, but it was compounding, it was getting into bigger issues within my own head, etc. Maybe, I don't know, just this conversation is making me realize, like, all right, Nick, you need to be better with looking at things the way you mentioned them, Mike, about passing the test or not passing the test. Yesterday was one that kind of solidified it. All right, that was a small one, but I did pass the test.
Yeah. That's cool. Awesome, dude.
I like the way
to hear that.
I like the way you look at it, bro.
I don't know that's the right way, but it's my way.
Whatever.
It keeps my peace, and my peace is basically how I show up, because I feel like how things, you know, devil's attacking you in many directions. It could be through people. It could be through news outlets. It could be through how somebody comments on your page. How does it affect you? You know, all those type of things are just little micro tests of like, hey, what's your relationship here? And all these things are just trying to break that. And so when none of this actually matters, and this is the only thing that does, none of this is useless. This doesn't feed me in a positive or negative.
That's true.
So the next phase of that in my mind is going, is this a season of good or bad? Because I don't believe that there's either. I believe there just is, and we in society choose whether something is good or bad.
Yes, we do, because good or bad
your car breaks down. Is that a bad season, or did it prevent you from getting in a wreck? You choose.
Great way to put it.
All right, let's get into some losses, because I think these are actually more important than wins.
Dude, let's start with some lessons learned.
Yeah, so lessons learned here, because we'd say like losses, and I was like, yeah, but it's not really a loss because winners learn. So what's a lesson? What's your biggest lesson you got, Nick?
With lessons, man, I think this is something we all can kind of, not what I'm about to say, but I think this is a topic in general where we're going to be bouncing a lot of things off of each other. So if you want to interrupt me to kind of share what you want to share, feel free to do it. But a lesson learned in 2025 from a business perspective, just one I can think of off the top of my head. When my gut is telling me to vet an athlete, just do it. Like if I've had an instance where part of myself, like my standard and my morals were compromised this year, not to the public by any means, nothing like that. But I felt like I failed myself and my team by bringing somebody on the team. And I didn't make it public to the team. Like nobody else knows this except my super close friends. But I failed myself in terms of like, hey, what's it mean to be on my team? Like, what is the standard that you uphold to? This individual had a lot of issues with the law, a lot of aggression towards the women he was with, and stolen valor. And none of those things I put up with. And I didn't realize it after the fact. But after the fact, I looked back and I realized some of the warning signs, maybe the red flags that I didn't notice right away.
Sometimes.
Yes. And I didn't realize it. Like, I didn't realize that. Well, I didn't make a scene about it. Like, I didn't say to my team group chat, like, after I removed this person, I didn't say why or nothing like that, because I don't need to. But it just took me a couple days to kind of sit on and be like, Nick, you got to do your job here, man. Like, you're the leader. Like, your name is attached to these people as well. It was a huge lesson learned, man. And after I learned that lesson, you know, I would, once I had a gut feeling of somebody else that wanted to join, or, you know, that wanted to be, you know, attached to my name, there are a couple other times where I listened and I passed that test, you know, thankfully so. So I needed that lesson to happen early on in this season, man, especially from what some of the things that I've heard recently about this individual. I wouldn't want to be associated with them. You know, it doesn't matter that they're a pro and I have another pro on the team. It doesn't matter to me at all. It's about what it means to be on Team Evolution, coached by me, how the standard I hold myself to. So yeah, that was a huge lesson learned for me.
It's huge.
Like, that's a big one.
There's a lot of shitty people in this sport, bro. You know, there's a lot of, and especially too, when you hear some things about a certain individual where you thought different from, and you start to see that these aren't lies, but it's actual fact, and you see it in like the legal sense, and you see it in the like the worst, just like lying about everything, man. You're like, wow, well, I'm glad I didn't learn this further down the road, you know? So yeah, man, but that's just one.
I had a lesson that was just like that with a lot of clients that we were great. I'd say a lot of clients, some clients, you know, sometimes we'll get a client on that, let's just say, is a little bit more entitled based on maybe our following or the business size. It's like, well, how am I going to be treated differently? I'm like, well, you're not. You're just as equal as the person that's making $2,000 with 2,000 followers. No one is greater than anybody else here. And that's something that I would say I learned as well this year too, was I will be the first one to refund you your money within the first month, because how you treat my team. And so with the way we work is I play a volume game. So no one person makes or breaks. No one person's going to make me get a Lambo. Matter of fact, one person might fill up my tank of gas. So everybody as an individual is kind of irrelevant at the end of the day. It's a collective. And so when you disrupt the entire community, and I have now my team comes back to me and saying, hey, such and such is being a problem. Well, now you're disrupting their peace. Now you're disrupting everybody else's experience, because they're stressed out because we're here to serve and you're just unhappy or nasty. And then that goes into the next call with the next client. So that amount of money you pay me is not worth it because you're not aligning with our core values. And so the vetting process, doing that now and learning that now, will keep you from making those decisions based off just money. But at the same time, again, I think it goes back to passing that test, as you said. So that's a really big deal, man.
Yeah. It was, yeah, I kept it to myself, man, besides myself and my girlfriend, my real close friends. And it was a pride moment for me, man. Like, I felt prideful. I was like, you know what? I don't care that I'm not getting another $400 a month. You know, it doesn't matter to me. You know, when I want my name spoken, I want it to be, you know, what I would expect.
Highest regard.
Yes. Yes. So that's one of them.
It's funny. That's actually one of my biggest lessons this year, both from a client perspective, but more importantly, from a mentor / business partner perspective, was morally aligning or is figuring out, do you morally align with someone that that should be obvious, right? But it's like, when there is someone with a big name in the space and they come to you with a business idea, it's, yeah, of course I want to do that. Of course I do. This could explode because of that name and my work ethic. But it's like, okay, well, we're not morally aligned. So is $1 million that could be made in a business worth it for my reputation forever? Absolutely not. So 2, maybe you call them mentors, maybe just like people you look up to. I just had to completely cut off this year for the same exact reason. And it feels great, and no bad feelings or anything. I don't hold grudges, to be honest. Maybe
no shade.
Yeah, exactly. So I just
impartial.
Yeah. That was a big lesson for me this year, is like, take a step back first, look at the bigger picture, and or just get to know someone better. Right. And when this is what I'm going to be practicing in 2026, is like, instead of waiting for the 5th or 6th or 7th red flag, maybe the second one is a good one. Or maybe even the first one is a good one. So we talk about, Mike, you talk about trusting your gut, right? Well, that's really God telling you, hey, this isn't supposed to happen. This person isn't, you don't have time anymore. Like, there's no time for this. So that was probably my biggest lesson of this year for sure.
That's huge. I know how that definitely affected you, man. You know,
Yeah.
especially just from the project that you and I started earlier on, which with our podcast, and obviously to everybody listening now, this is kind of our rebranding of it. We brought Mike on, but like for us talking throughout that time and that time period of the year, you made those decisions, and then look what came. And you know, you didn't think of it as a personal decision. You didn't think of it as like, you looked at it from the macro scale, like you said. And a lot of people, maybe the individuals that you had to step away from, maybe they're looking at it from a personal scale and a micro scale. But at least at the end of the day, you know why you did it.
Yeah.
You know where you're at now. You know what's more important to you and your soon-to-be wife, etc.
Yep. And honestly, man, it's like it was the least bit of a personal thing. You know, if I was just thinking personally about the ventures and the ethics and everything, then it was all benefit for me. It was more so people that I care about that it was affecting in both situations. It was people that I care about that were being affected, people I care about not doing well for them or doing good to them or for them. And that was the decision. So it was the least bit personal, and every bit of like, again, morally, I am a loyal person. It just is it's honestly loyal to a fault sometimes, because when I develop a relationship with someone, I'm just so all in on it that I just don't know when to pull myself out. But so like, but that loyalty also is like, I'm not willing to step on the toes of anyone that I am good friends with or has done good by me and always will do good by me. And that's just the decisions that had to be made.
Brother, I'm the same exact way, because after that scenario with one of those individuals, I got a message from them, and they did take it personal, because they wanted,
For sure.
hey, me and Taylor aren't doing things anymore. Nick, how about you join in? Wanting that again, divisive people, cutting out divisive people. I'm like, dude, just going back to loyalty too. Like, bro, what kind of friend would I be if I'm going to be like, oh yeah, let me take the position of one of my close friends who literally doesn't align with you morally? Like, who am I then? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, like, we wouldn't be on this podcast if I would have said yes. You and I, bro, wouldn't be friends anymore. You know, that shit means way more to me than you realize, bro. Just like your loyalty and just loyalty of people around us is huge.
Well, I appreciate that from you as well. That means a lot.
We're not going to name drop, but for people that know, it's.
I'd say my biggest lesson was from I'd say two things. One, on a personal note, communication with my wife, with my team. I just usually just do and don't ask. You know, Nick, we talked about this yesterday, right?
Same, bro.
I'd be like, yeah, babe, I'm going to go do this thing. And she'd be like, so you're not going to consult me on it? I'm like, I didn't think it was a big deal. And it's like, well, right, I know, which is why you didn't ask me. And it's also my time that you just designated, right? Like, what if I didn't want to do that this weekend? Why did you say yes to that, right? So it's just about asking and respecting versus just like, well, everybody else is your follow-on dog. So that was a big one for me. And then from my team perspective, man, this one has been really big, is trusting that they can do what it is they need to do. I felt like I just know better. And so let me touch every single thing. It's like, that's impossible. And honestly, it's a dishonor to them thinking that they can't figure it out and do it on their own. Or why do I have them in the first place? And so since that concept is like, well, we sign up coaches pretty much on a daily basis. And then I may or may not have any idea who they are. And I may or may not ever talk to them, but the team does what they need to do. So that was kind of difficult because that's new, right? Like somebody just purchased and I'm like, never heard of their name before. So that's interesting to just new for us or new for me. And so trusting the team and leaning into them to do their responsibilities and their jobs and trusting that they're going to like show up and do it. I'd say those are my two biggest things, communication and then trust. I'd say one last one would be, this is interesting because that's something I struggled with for so long. Whether with my divorce, I've had 2 business people stab me in the back. I just give a lot of grace. One of the things that I would do would be, I'm not going to hurt your feelings. I'll carry this burden because I'm stronger than you. I can handle it. Letting people off the hook scotch-free. And it's not that I'm here to cast the judgment or this, that, whatever, but at the same time, there needs to be some ownership taken in certain areas. And then that's not to say a lesson that I learned this year, but what I have learned this year is that there was a thing that I heard that was, I can't remember who said it. I think it was like Cam Newton or something like that. It was like, expect a snake to be a snake. Like they're going to, like, snakes bite. Don't get angry when they bite.
Yep.
It's like, if you know that person is that type of way, don't get angry at them because they bit you. Be angry because you're still in the room with them. Right. So expect people to be people, and human nature is what I'm getting at. human nature is to look out for yourself. Human nature is to sin. Human nature is to sometimes slide into greed. Sometimes it is to slide into, whatever serves you personally over others. And so expecting people to be human, giving grace where it's needed, at the same time seeing something happen before it. And so that just comes obviously with a lot of time and reps in those departments. But that was a big one. Just like, hey man, don't get angry because humans are humans. It's just know when to keep them and when to remove them and just move on.
You kind of reminded me there. Definitely like a lesson learned in 2025 for me as well was, I'm somebody, bro, where I take a lot of responsibility and accountability and ownership, even if I'm not the one that's making the mistake. I think it's a curse and it's a blessing. I learned that from a past mentor of mine who I ended up in the best ways possible separating from back in 2024. And I'm very glad that I'm not doing business with them anymore for my own reasons. But something that I learned how to do a little bit better in 2025 was, let's say there was a mistake that was made, or there was a friend that was lost, or a fight that accrued, or whatever. And I wasn't the one that started it or whatever. I would take ownership of it and I would take responsibility for it because I'm the leader. And I think that's a good quality to have, but sometimes it would do me more harm internally because the way I am, man, I'm trying to be better with my emotions and being transparent with things. And I started to realize the more ownership that I would take of things that literally did not affect me, okay, the worse it would make me with being transparent with my emotions to my girlfriend, to my friends, etc. We lost a friend this year, not to death or anything, but like I'm saying, a friend that was once doing our podcast with us, he's no longer a part of the group. I took that personally. It was like, guys, that was me. Like, that was on me. I didn't start the fight. The disrespect of what was going on, I had nothing to do with that friend leaving, but I apologized for it anyway because I was the one that brought him on years ago. And I was the one that introduced him to the friend group. And my boys like, Nick, that's not your fault, bro. Like, right. You have nothing to do with the way he treated us and the way that we responded, and like, I'm just so grateful of having men like that in my life because I'm trying to be better with that. Let's say something happens with, the team or whatever. Dude, many times this year, I lost a prep client this year because of it. Somebody that I built from the ground up. He's with me for 3 years and we didn't end on bad terms, but there were some issues with like Google Drive and ownership of my email that I had made years ago. And that email was like deleted, but I still had my work email, etc. So I had to make a bunch of new spreadsheets from scratch, or like their programming, etc. from scratch. And I'm like, guys, like, give me a break. Like I got 25, 26 of you guys. I can't memorize everything. You know what I'm saying? And this individual, had his own words to say about how he was in prep and he was entitled to like being the first one on the list to get the sheets back into his inbox as quick as possible, etc. And I told him like, bro, one mistake in 3 years is pretty good if you ask me. And it was out of my control, and he understood it. But at the same time, the next day, we ended up having a conversation. He ended up leaving, that's his decision. But I took that one. I was like, you know what, Nick, like, I told him this, like, I told him straight up, it's my fault, man. If you're leaving, it's my fault. Somewhere along the lines, like, you wanted your spreadsheets to be back to you quicker, and it took a week and a half, and you're, X amount of weeks far out from the show. But I didn't have to take that responsibility. I didn't have to take that accountability because later down the road, like, it took me a good couple of weeks to actually sit with it and be like, Nick, you didn't do anything wrong, bro. You're chilling. Why did you have to be like that? Why did you have to put yourself in the shoes of, hey man, it's all good. It was me. And it's because it's the leader in me. I'm trying to be better with that. I'm trying to be better with that in the correct ways, the correct scenarios. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think you taking ownership of it was the right thing to do, in my opinion. You're tip of the spear, bro. Like, if something gets deleted, it's 100% your fault.
Yeah.
If somebody gets double charged, it's my fault. No, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, like, no one's ever going to say anything negative because I took ownership as a company. A great example. We had somebody, we sent out plaques for rewards. Like, hey, I never got mine. I go, that's on us. we must have just missed it and never shipped. I was here, if you'll just give me information right now, I'll put out. She goes, actually, I just realized I never filled out the form.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, well, as you know us, we're going to take ownership of every single thing that happens. But I could have been like, yeah, you never filled out the form. And then I'm just like going, well, it's your fault. So I think in your mind, like, you did the right thing. I think that when somebody decides to make a personal decision, that is their decision. You did the right thing on your end of taking the ownership of it. That's their decision. How they want to react to that is on them, not on you. And so when we take ownership, that means that we're apologizing and we're doing our best to fix it, and then trying to do it in a timely manner, and then trying to set deadlines so we can have expectations hit. And that's all you can actually do. And when somebody else doesn't align with that, hey, I totally get it. I've done all I can do. That's on you.
Should have felt was like, or maybe how I should have worded it was, Nick, why'd you take that why'd you take that responsibility and then let his decision of leaving affect you weeks down the road?
You took it personally.
Yes.
When it was their personal decision.
Yes. I didn't have to take it personally.
Yeah.
I did the right thing by taking the accountability and the responsibility. I agree with that, but I should have worded that differently there. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? And he's doing great, man. He's probably going to watch this podcast and he knows exactly like that I'm talking about him.
Yeah.
That's great because him and I are cool, but that's just who I am, man. You know?
Yeah. Have you ever read the book, The 4 Agreements? Write that down. 4 Agreements. First book I read was The 4 Agreements when I was 30 years old. 4 Agreements is a fantastic book. It basically goes down these 4 things for you to basically be happy. And I hope I don't butcher these. The first one is, shoot. Can I still say I have prep brain?
Yeah. You're a weak pest.
I just know one of them is, okay, here we go. Be impeccable with your word, which means everything you say, you need to mean. So, for example, if you tell somebody like, dude, your singing's terrible, really you're just tired and irritated, but now you said that their singing's terrible. Now that little girl's never going to sing again, right? So be impeccable with your word. Say what you mean and mean what you say. The second one is don't take anything personal, good or bad. Taylor, you did a fantastic job with my prep, and he can either take that personal as in like, yeah, I did a great job, or we didn't win though, so it's not that great. So it's like, don't take anything actual personal. You only can control you. The third one is don't make assumptions, good or bad. So when we make assumptions, it's like, man, my girlfriend didn't talk to me today or hasn't talked to her in 4 hours. She might be cheating on me. So what are you doing? Right? Oh, my client hasn't paid their invoice yet. Like, I think they're going to quit. All right. So don't make assumptions because that's just putting you in this worry state. Also, don't assume everything's great either, not just negative. But don't assume that people are going to do right by you. And then always do your best. You're going to fail at these 3 things. So it's just showing up the next day and trying again. But these things, like, it's basically the Toltec wisdom here is like, only control what you can control. And if you control what you can control, then nothing on the outside can penetrate and affect you. Somebody's actions, somebody's words, they don't come in and affect me and my space.
Yeah. I like that, man. I'm going to get that book. I literally, it's on my book list.
It's a pretty short read.
It's on my book list now for 2026. So,
but it's a good one. There we go. So speaking of 2026, what are some goals? Let's wrap this up with some goals.
Yeah, man. Some goals, baby. I want to, dude, I really want one of my athletes to win a pro show really bad. Like, I want it. It's a huge goal of mine. It could have happened this year, but he never stepped on stage because he missed his showtime, bro. Oh, I'm watching the live stream. He was great all morning, messaging me, everything, all week, all peak week, all prep. Never called his name out. And I'm like, I know. And the 3 people that I wanted him to beat, he's a men's physique guy, like showed up off. Like, I'm not saying he would have beat them, but he would have had a better chance of making that top 5, top 3. And I'm like, dude, what? But that's a huge goal of mine is I want another, like 4 more pro cards, man. I've got some heavy hitters competing in 2026. I want to win a pro show, but also, like I mentioned, Ali, that was my family message. I mentioned to you both, it's my goal to make $500,000 this year in 2026. And it's not, because obviously I know my athletes are going to be listening to this. It's not to sign on more people. Yes, I'm going to get more people, especially if, people leave, replacing, athletes. It's not even about replacing athletes. It's just like, income's going to drop, income's going to rise, etc. But it's more so about my systems. And that's why I told my team, I'm like, hey guys, for 2 weeks, for literally Sunday until the first week of January, I've got 2 weeks off and I'm working on systems, working on back end stuff of business, because that's how I'm going to be able to serve my people better. I can have a financial goal, but I'm not going to be able to reach that financial goal if I don't serve each individual how they need to be served. And yes, I did a great job doing that this year, but I know I can do better in 2026. So that's two of my goals there from a business perspective. Personal goals, dude, I'm really trying to be better with my emotions. I'm not saying act on my emotions, but like, I'm a very logical person. I act upon logic. The information, what information do you have on hand, Nick? Use that information to make a decision. But sometimes I just struggle with sharing things, and I keep them in, and I need to be better with sharing those to my girlfriend and also to my friends that are close to me. And I really need to try to be better with that. And I'm going to be determined to be better at that, because it's going to make me a better man. It's going to make me a better individual. So, and yeah, I think that's honestly something. If I can make big strides in my emotional intelligence, in my emotional like malleability, I think that's going to carry over to a lot of other areas in life, with business, personal relationships, etc. Yeah, that's honestly my biggest personal goal, because that's going to carry over to everything else, man.
It's going to be so compounding. I'm telling you, bro. Like, that's the unlock, is how you show up on all the little things. Man, like that, it's huge, huge. You know, a good test for me to know where my emotional state's at? Jump in the cold shower. If it defeats you and you just like, it's just putting a whooping on you, you're very mentally weak at that moment.
Wow. I like it.
Because it's like, when you're strong, you go, that's easy. It's just this cold water. When you're in there, it's just defeating you. And somebody's basic words are going to be like, throw you on a tiff, because you can't handle any stress. It's a really great check on a daily basis. Where am I at? And so when you see your body struggling, this is where cold plunge really comes into play, of building up that mental fortitude. But even just the cold shower gives you that quick check just to see. And every day I do work out at the gym, take a shower at the gym. Taylor saw the routine. I just instantly go straight cold on the face, just walk right in, boom, turn it on. And it lets me know where I'm at for the day. And if I'm like getting defeated, I'll pull it to cold and be like, let's just work through this real quick before you take any of this hostility or whatever you got going on to the office.
Got it. I like that, man. I'm going to adopt that into my life.
Me too.
And I think I'm very good at not making emotional decisions or making emotional messages, engaging in things that are out of my character. I'm very good at that. Like, if I see a message and it makes me feel a certain way in my stomach, and I want to start typing something or send a voice message, I'm very good at like, all right, just chill, breathe through your nose. But it's more so like the emotions of life stress or sharing just like anxieties with my girlfriend. It's the things that I need to be better at sharing as a man, for what I'm putting on my shoulders as the provider of my relationship. That's honestly where I struggle with the most. I can be so good at being a provider, but I fail at a big portion of being a provider when I struggle with sharing things that I know she needs to hear,
I'm going to play devil's advocate and double sword here. So I find that, as like my wife, for example, it is not her job to bear my burdens. And so for myself, when I find myself getting heavy like that, I'll basically say, okay, so let me just hit a quick prayer while I'm driving. Let me just ask for some wisdom and guidance so I can release that, and then go talk about it versus dump about it. Because what she doesn't want is me to come home and whine or complain every day about my crazy work schedule, or I got this client doing this or this doing that. In my mind, that's her job to do to me. And so it's not that I don't want to share emotions. It's this, I just don't want to be emotional when I'm sharing.
That's a great way of putting it.
Like, going to somebody that can actually help, so that you can then just go talk, just so somebody can hear.
That's what I need is like, I don't want to vent, because I've had I don't want to vent. I don't want to become that. I've had that before, like in prior lives,
Yep.
But it's like, it's being able to
balance.
Yes.
Being emotional versus expressing emotion.
Having it come off my lips and my tongue in a way that it's expressing it and not expecting her to change it or want to fix it. Because to be honest, man, that's not her role. But my role is to be able to be transparent and share things without it making her emotional, So I'm just learning things and learning it, especially, I mean, today is our 4-year anniversary, to be honest, actually.
That's awesome.
Let's go, buddy.
Next week, my 2-year is next week. 2-year.
Yeah. I guess for me, January 1st was our first date on New Year's in Nashville. So it'd be 4 years for us too.
Damn.
So yeah, that's cool. Well, yeah, man. Seek wisdom.
Yes.
I guess.
Big goal. Big goal.
I have a lot of goals for 2026. Before I start on them, when is this going to be dropped?
January 1st, right? Yep.
As far as business goes, I don't know if this is personal or business. Mike, you and I have already talked about this, but I want to speak on my first stage next year, which, we're planning on doing. But that's something that I have always been like frightful of speaking in front of people, public speaking in general. But I feel like once I get in my kind of flow state, I am decent at talking. So I would like to just get better at the public speaking. It's going to help in every aspect of business and life. Yeah. So that's another thing. And then I also would like to do $500,000. I'm close to 300,000 this year. So next year I would like to hit that 500 mark. However, I do want to add a little caveat to that. Business is just going to be getting up and going for two of them. I think True Coach has a potential to do really well in terms of income. Coaching, I'm probably going to be scaling back a little bit, so I'm not going to be. However, prices are going to go up a lot for coaching, so the people who do come on will be very serious, and the income could potentially just stay the same from it. So that, and then year one in the clinic is going to be tough. Obviously, that's going to be a lot of learning and there's way more overhead in that than it is in a regular business. So, but I think all of them combined, I can do pretty well with. So yeah, that's my business goals, and really just. Another personal one is just be more organized, be more intentional. Mike, I know you talked about this earlier with like you have those goals laid out, like you know what the team wants to do. I know what I want to do. I have clear goals. It's just like I don't have the implementation and the systems in place to like this is what I need to do at this time. This is what basically like taking that actual goal and working and reverse engineering it. Mm-hmm. That's something that I'm gonna spend some time doing at the beginning of the year.
You just don't have it yet.
Yeah.
It's also really hard to do that in a brand new business. You don't know what that looks like, right? Mm-hmm. We've been doing the same business for 3 years now. Mm-hmm. We kind of know what we need to do to move the needle. Yep. So, but that's good. Those are both great. Dude, can I share something with you guys, man? I didn't make six figures, $100,000 until I was 29 years old.
Really?
Yeah, bro. Like you guys got a bright future.
My parents have never made $100,000 or close to it in their life. Like right? 60, 70.
And my first year of coaching in 2012, right? When you guys were probably still in high school.
I was 12 years old.
So my first year of coaching in 2012, I made $12,000. You guys are well past what I was doing. So I've got some time on you though. This year for me, I want to end December. We want to be doing a year from now. I wanted to be doing $1 million a month in sales. For the companies, which is obviously a pretty lofty goal from 2.5 to scaling to where we're doing $1 million a month. I definitely think it's possible and we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
The other thing for me on a personal level, I would love to snag a national or a master's pro card. While traveling, while being a CEO, while also I think showing up for my wife a little bit more. I'd love to see her win an overall this year and being her number one fan and supporting her doing that. And just like being that prep husband that carries all the things and cooks all the food and does all the things to make her do that, because that was a lot of fun for me to be there for her. It was somewhat difficult trying to do my own thing at the same time, but Taylor will tell you that like I made her a priority. Like I came off stage and then instantly I'm like on my feet all day as she's backstage, like there was no rest for me. It was just, but that's also like what I wanted to do, right? I wanted to serve her, not just myself. Let's take some maturity and time.
So what I'm hearing is Universe in July.
Well, the hard piece about that, the last week of May, I'm doing a 100-mile hike in the Swiss Alps for 7 days.
Dude.
So I don't know from I don't know about 4 weeks out doing a hike or a trek, but at the same time, like we'll see.
Hey, it is what it is, man.
There's a lot of shows that we can choose from. I think from the national level or master's level, I think even potentially North Americans.
Yeah.
Which is the beginning of September. They give me all summer to essentially prep and then quit before my birthday. So I might upgrade cars this year. I don't know. Maybe they'll put that on my birthday list. We'll see. But yeah, $1 million in the business a month. That's the goal. Snag a pro card. That would be serving my old 22-year-old self.
And now you see how close it is.
Crush it. Yeah. I mean, it's actually the package that we brought, I never thought was even possible for me, because you look at pros and you go, man, like look how crazy they look, and then as you look at yourself, you go, why am I not there? And then actually, I don't know how or why, but the package that we brought, it was like, oh, that's interesting. That seems like that's really close to, maybe not from a size or shape perspective, but at least from just like conditioning and peak. That was pretty neat. I already sent Taylor a video this morning, this guy who's older who was just nails. And I was like, this is what we're shooting for. But yeah, man, that's it. That's what I want to do.
I love it, bro.
Cool.
Travel the world,
Amazing.
make some money, serve God in the process, support my wife, enjoy the journey with my team.
I missed the biggest goal again, very embarrassingly. I have already talked to Gons about it. Next time I come to Dallas, 2026 goal is to get baptized.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I had heard Gons just mention, and Gons Nick is Mike's content creative director. I had heard him just in passing say something about he had baptized his friends before. So I hit him up when I left Dallas, and I was like, hey, was I hearing you right, or am I tripping? He was like, no, you heard me right. And I was like, I want to have a conversation about that, because next time I come to Dallas, I've been wanting to do it for a while, but it's like, some places you have to be a member of the church and stuff like that. And transparently, I'm not a member at a church right now. At least I've been doing virtual on Sundays and, Bible study and stuff like that. But, yeah, so that's probably the biggest goal of mine. Sure.
I got a pull. We can make it happen.
That would be awesome.